Live.
We're back. I
We're
miss
back.
streaming with you.
Me too. Me too. We have
Yeah.
another author with us today.
Pew, pew, pew. I'm
Today we're
excited.
I am too. It's been fun having authors on with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my screen is mirrored.
Oh
Yours is
no. No, it's we can see it. It's wait, hold it up again. No, because my
okay.
shirt is good. So
No, I'm mirrored.
yeah. Shadow, the
Shadow,
Eternal
the
Washer.
Eternal Watcher by Josh Mendoza. So this one was like it was kind of giving detective noir and then it kind of gave
Yeah.
space opera. So it was really fun.
What's up,
And
AK?
hey, AK. And yeah, it was a joy reading it. It's not a long read either. So if you haven't read it yet, by all means, hit pause and
I know. We'll
like
catch
300
up.
pages. Like you can do it, I promise. Um, so I'm Tanya,
I'm Nikki.
and we're a Thousand Eyes in One, and this is our book club, Wine on an Empty Stomach.
Are
We
you
keep
drinking
going.
wine? Jinx.
Yes, I'm drinking Malbec today.
I am not.
Mal.
I am drinking Four Oaks Lafroig, and I'm
Ooh,
drinking it in a martini glass because that's how we do it on my planet. So,
nice.
cheers.
Nice. I wanted Chardonnay, but it wasn't cold enough yet, so Malbec it
Mm.
is. It's hot outside. I like to drink Chardonnay when it's hot.
Ow. Happy summer.
Happy summer. All right, well,
Yeah.
let's bring on our new friend Josh.
Yay.
Hi, Josh.
We need fanfare. We got to work on
Yeah,
that.
we need air horns.
Tanya, tell us what key that was.
I don't have that skill.
Aw, boo.
Nope, I was not blessed with perfect pitch, unfortunately.
Hi,
Well,
Josh.
thanks
How are
for having
you?
me on, y'all.
Thank you for
I do
coming.
not have Lafroig or Malbec. I'm jealous. I just have iced coffee. But
Hey, that's
Hey.
true. You are 3 hours behind us, so it is always
Mhm.
time for iced coffee.
Oh yeah.
I drank my share of red wine last night, so
Uh,
it's
You got
probably
it all in
still
already.
squeaking out of the floors there.
tell us a little bit about yourself, Josh.
Yeah, so I'm an author and a filmmaker. I've been writing for as long as I can remember. That's what I went to school for. I went to Stanford and studied creative writing, and I went to USC and studied film and television production. And I've just been chasing telling stories. I've got a lot of them in my head, and I'm trying to get them out. And I've got a lot of screenplays, and I'm pumping out some books now. And getting back to what was my original passion, I always wanted to be a novelist when I was a kid. I was just very passionate about that, and so Shadow the Eternal Watcher is my debut novel. It's the first one, and it's exciting. I love seeing it all beat up in your hand. I love
Oh
that.
yes.
Yeah, mine is out of reach. It's interesting to know that you've got like this film background as well, because every time I'd pick it up, I'd go through, I'm like, I can see this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see this.
Real
Yeah,
quick.
and that's kind of how my brain's always worked. I mean, when I first started learning to write and practicing when I was in college, I mean, it was people be like, so why are you writing it like this? And I was essentially imagining camera shots. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
playing around and like this and that. So that's sort of what started to pull me into filmmaking, is just that I have a very visual mind, and it like when I write, like for the book even, I'm like, all right, well, what's the blocking? Where are we in this room? And I try to really like
Yeah.
imagine this actual space, because I think sometimes writers don't do that, and that's when you sometimes are reading, you're like, what's happening now? It's because I don't know, and this is not criticism, I just don't know if they have really thought about like where everyone is or what's happening, and that's just something that comes naturally to my brain. So I
Yeah.
definitely
I founded a writing workshop called The Right Set. Shout out to AK, she's in it. And it's something that we talk about often, is like setting the scene. And like you, not only do you want to like describe where you're, but you want to feel like you're inside of it. You want to give the reader the ability to feel like if they can reach out, like if I have a microphone here, but like I could reach out and touch the microphone. You can like, I want it to be sticky. Yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you, I know we're talking about your book today, but could you tell us a little bit about your film? Because I saw it for
Yeah.
rent on Apple, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so I mean, the movie's called What Still Remains, and as you might have gleaned from the book, it's another. I like to do genre mashups. So I mean, when you look at that movie, you're like, oh, it's like a post-apocalyptic, probably has some monsters or something in it, but it's really more, for me, it was more of a coming-of-age story for a young woman struggling to survive, and the post-apocalyptic setting kind of allowed that to take fruit, and it was really a family melodrama, and a girl trying to figure out what to do after she loses her mom and her brother in this world. She's really had a sheltered life, but she's been safe and living alone with them, and that gets blown up in this movie, and she has to figure out, all right, well, I have to go find a way to make it in this world. And so I thought that was an interesting thing for a filmmaker from a character standpoint to explore. And when you think about, the nice thing about writing a book, obviously, is you can write whatever you want, right? If I blow up a bridge, it blows up. If I you make a movie, especially an indie low budget one, I mean, you can write it, you blow up the bridge, but I got news for you. You're not blowing up the bridge when you show up on the bridge. I mean, even in that movie, without giving too much away, I mean, we had this whole sequence I'd written, and the producers loved it, and we were going to do it until like literally the day before. We were going to dig this pit, put the actor in it, and the heroine, she was going to do this whole cool thing with rope, and I had all this ways I was going to shoot it, and she was going to create like a pulley system and get them out of there, and just kind of show how her ingenuity, right? And I remember we were literally filming something else, and one of the guys comes up to me, he's like, yeah, so that pit, we keep digging it and it keeps caving in, and we don't think we can do it safely. So on the fly, we're like, okay, well, what can we do by tomorrow? And that's kind of the filmmaker, that run and gun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes I think people, when they get upset, they're like, oh, that's my creative genius. It had to be this. But I think a lot of times in movies, the limitations make you be more creative, and they make you be better.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of my favorite movies is Jaws, right? And Jaws,
happy 50th anniversary.
Shark didn't work, right? But it's a better movie. If you saw that shark in the first scene eat that lady, then I think you'd be like, all right, well, I guess this is scary. But the fact you never see that shark, which is not the thing to do, it's so much better, right? And that's
so much better.
That's kind of that's the cool happenstances that happen in movies, when you let things just go and see what happens. Yeah.
I'm a videographer, and I film like a lot of do interviews and like studio sessions and concerts and stuff. But I remember one time, like, if you guys don't know, there's this Instagram account called Shitty Rigs, and it's like what people do like when they're out of something, or like, let's say you forgot or whatever, you got to do this. But I was filming these interviews where these women had to be anonymous, and we didn't know that until we got there. And so we're like filming in this apartment. I'm like, what are we gonna do? We're like looking for top cups of like the tops of to-go cups to maybe like hold on the lens, and didn't have anything. But what I found was like a coffee pot that was like calcified. I don't know how long it'd been there, but it was super shady. So we gaff taped it to the front of the lens, and that's what we ended up doing to keep her anonymous. So yeah, you got to be thinking on the fly.
I love that.
Ooh, man. Well,
I don't get to be that creative in my job.
Yeah, you do.
I live by a very rigid set of rules.
Lawyering.
Those rules are pretty rigid.
Well, I asked you questions that make you be creative and tell me that I'm wrong and that things are illegal.
Well, we've said before that lawyers are basically fairies, right? We work in a court, and we follow like the word of the law, not necessarily the spirit of the law. You have to be like really clear about, what it is you're saying, and otherwise things could get twisted around and it's still kind of legal. So that's the
magic comes with the price.
Yeah, exactly. Magic comes with a price. So I guess that's like the creative side for me.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Duster Raines.
Yeah, so I mean, Duster Raines is a down on his luck detective. As I knocked my computer over, you sort of talked about it earlier. I was like, how could I do like a fun, gritty, just classic detective story set in LA that sort of checks all these boxes, all the stereotypes, right? And then how could I blow that up? So I mean, he's definitely these pulpy noir, the classic Dashiell Hammond stories, that kind of vibe. And I wanted part of the mystery, besides just the mystery that exists within the novel that he's trying to solve, I wanted to also wouldn't it be fun if the mystery was that actually this is a science fiction book? So by the midpoint, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm in a sci-fi world. But I mean, the prologue obviously sets that up, and I did it because I don't want people to be like, what am I reading? So you have to kind of set your reader up for it. But also, I think the beginning of that book's just a lot of fun to kind of touch on things I grew up loving. I mean, I always grew up. My mom was a big avid reader, and my dad was a big cinephile, though he probably didn't know it. And I was always either sitting in the local indie bookstore flipping through sci-fi books, or I was at Blockbuster or whatever Video One back in the day, and Video Update, renting movies with my dad, and we just watched everything. And I devoured, all the classics, and I also devoured Star Trek, Star Wars, all those things, Twilight Zone. And so, like, for me, it's just I wanted to write something that was elevated and well written, but also just fun, and something that kid would have picked up and been like, "Oh, this is cool." So I just was trying to take different tacks with, all right, it's a multiversal story, but what's different about this multiverse versus like the Spider-Man where there's a million of you, in this one there's the duplicates are the rarity, and that's what makes the magic happen in this book, more or less. So I just was trying to set up the stereotypes and then try and knock them down.
Yeah, I came so right before we started reading this book, we'd done Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is like a favorite for both of us, right? So we were coming from like a detective who was down on his luck. And after that, I ended up reading the book. And so after that, we're coming into this, I'm like, yo, this is crazy, because it's like, it got some, you hit a lot of the same beats, but like, you're not getting sci-fi in Roger Rabbit. You're not getting sci-fi. I listen to a lot of old time radio, like Dragnet, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and those things. And, the tone is similar, like you've got this wisecracking detective, and that's what I like. I think my favorite thing about Duster Raines is that he's kind of like well, I'll get into like how I think about the writing of it, but he's got all these funny things that he says, like just off the collar, like with a comment on the mustache, he's like, not everybody's perfect, or just like all these other quips, and it makes him like, I don't know, it makes him be somebody that I'm rooting for, even though like, things are kind of fucking falling apart.
Yeah, and that was a challenge in writing it too. Is I definitely went through some drafts where maybe you would have read them and been like, "Oh, this guy's a dick. I don't like him." And like, or you'd read it and be like, "I don't know, like he should be more swarthy and more like get out there and really kick some butt." So it's a balance too. And I wanted him really to be like an anti-hero that like grows into something that could be more. And I think that's the question at the end of the book too, is like, what's he going to be like, right? So I thought that was just fun to explore, and doing it in first person too, like allowed me to just like literally be in his head too. I'm like, what do these wisecracking detectives think when they're looking in the mirror, right? Or watching TV, or have had a few too many and try to drive their car. So, it was fun for me to try to almost be like a meta actor about it, and get in this guy's head and what would he do?
I definitely felt like I could hear his voice, and for me, it was like a combination of Bob Hoskins in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Tommy Lee Jones in Bad Santa.
Yeah.
It actually, I know that's like a completely different movie, but it kind of reminded me of that. Like this guy, he's like, we see him in the very beginning of the movie where he's vomiting in an alley in his Santa suit. And it's like, he's so drunk and he's so mean and he's done like all these bad things. But at the end, like he really wants to help this kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's definitely like a shitty person, but he kind of wants to be better. So you kind of want to root for him.
Yeah,
so that was
something I thought about a lot too, is like, I like, he's like, none of us are great all the time, right? And I think sometimes you watch movies or read books and you find yourself rooting for the villain sometimes, right? And you're like, why do I like this villain? And I think it's because they sometimes are more complex than the hero who's just like, I'm going to do good and go save the day. And sometimes you're like, oh, why is this guy trying to blow it all up? And they usually have a good reason.
Yeah.
And you think, and you find yourself connecting to that, because I think that's how people are. We're not so cut and dry. Right. So it was something definitely with Duster that I was trying to play with, right? And trying to like be like, all right, well, he is a shitty person sometimes. He wants to be better, and he still screws it up even when he's trying to do the right thing too. So I think that's just interesting. And I think it's real too.
I
Yeah.
think that Duster and both Duster and his shadow are the type of person that Jimmy the Gent from Goodfellas would root for. Like there's that line where he's always he's the type of guy who roots for the bad guys in the movies, and I think that that's one thing that's really interesting about him, because not only does he have all these traits, but he's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
Like he's not. It's not like he's like, oh, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like no, he'll break your arm in 3 places and just leave you in the gutter. And I love that sense of danger that he comes with.
Yeah.
And something I was talking to Tanya about. So let me first say about this book, you guys, that I don't ever bring books in my bedroom because I have a Kindle. But since I had the hard copy, like I found myself like I would bring it in the room and I was reading it when I was like on my lunch break, and I would bring it on the train. Like I couldn't put it down. I was having so much fun reading it. I kept texting Tanya. I was like, I can't wait for you to start this book so we can talk about it. And I was having the best time. And I think like another that was really interesting to me about his evolution is like, I know like the sentence structure you have like in the very beginning, like the way that he talks when he's like drunk and going through it is like very kind of choppy, and it's like you can tell that it's intentional. And as it goes on, as he sobers up, you're like, oh, look at him, he's having like full thoughts, like they're much more cohesive. And I thought that was really brilliant.
Yeah, and you know, for me too, the alcohol is sort of it's a crutch for him to hide behind too. It's like it excuses the bad behavior to him. It's like, oh well, yeah, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been like this. And I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think that's something that we hide behind these things, and we justify our actions sometimes by saying, oh well, I had too much to drink, or I didn't get enough sleep, or I was in a bad mood, whatever it is, right? And then and obviously he goes from low stakes, you know, he's basically an ambulance chaser, to sort of all of a sudden he's thrust in this world way beyond his means and way beyond what he's capable of handling, but also what he always sort of delusionally thought he could be, right? And then like being presented with this alternate reality where in fact all his delusions are actually true. And then but like what do you become when you get the power, right? And are you good or are you bad? And I just think that's a very classic story that's fun to kind of evolve, like spin around. And yeah, then Duster's, and it's cool you picked up on the sentence structure. I mean, it was a lot of fun to write him, just like in his thoughts, broken thoughts, how people think, and then when they're drunk, what's that like versus what he thinks like when he's sober, but also he doesn't forget anything he ever did when he's in those moments too, so it lives with him too.
I have a fun question for you guys. How would you feel if you met your double and they were way better than you?
My first thought was I would be really jealous.
My first thought was try to destroy them.
Yeah,
I don't want to be a friend.
What I love about this book is it's sort of like he's like, I'm going to go save the day by destroying this other version of myself, and I just kind of a fun thing. And I definitely have some other ideas for a couple extra books in this series that I'm going to write, and I think it gets a little wackier and a little weirder as it goes too. And I'm excited to delve into that too.
Wacky.
Did you have a favorite character
other than Duster? I mean, I love Juan. And I love Carla, and I think they're kind of me. They're like my Greek chorus, being like, "Duster, what are you doing, man? Like, I can't act like that." Like, so I mean, Juan sort of to me was the kid that I mentioned earlier. He's like me in a way, and just probably better with computers than I am. But he's my son, really. My son's going to be that kid who's like touches a computer and it like turns on. You're like, how'd you do that?
I guess
those two are my favorites.
The story a little bit, right? A man walks into a bar. A man walks into the bar where he's got a reputation, and you know he's there to meet this woman, and he, you know, kind of in his delusion is like, oh well, maybe she's here for a date, you know, like maybe I don't know.
Which makes no logical sense, right? He's like, why did this random person call me? And he's just, yeah, I love that though.
Yeah. And then they have this really
strange conversation. And
wait, I have a question. If you had to cast her, like say you could cast anybody, who would you cast to play her?
Maybe Zoe Saldana.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I'm usually not very good at that.
It wasn't something that I was planning on asking.
I'm proud of that response because I feel like that's the right answer probably in a perfect world. maybe a type like her. Yeah, she's a great actress, but she's also
She's a
beautiful, and
sci-fi.
she has that sharp wit to her too, which I think
Mhm.
Madison exudes in spades. And Madison's a fun character too because you see both sides of her too, and
Yeah.
she's the extreme, has seen too much PTSD, and she's also the smart, gonna get the stuff done. And I like that character. There's another character. I like all my characters. Let's be real.
Who was the most difficult to write?
Um, I think playing with Torian and Jacobs as like the villains, but also just not being like they're so over the top. But sometimes I have to pull that back. Sometimes it can become caricature, right? So I think there's a challenge there too. But like that fanatical,
Oh yeah.
the fanaticism of them was a tough thing to balance, I think. But I think I like those two too, and I think there's more to come from all of them.
Yeah. So you guys, brain. Duster Ray's walks into the bar. He meets with Madeline, who's like, "Hey, my husband has been kidnapped. I need you to help me. There's aliens involved." And he was like, "All right. I thought I was here for a date." And obviously, like you said, she's out of it. Like, she's beautiful. She's like, he can tell that something is up with her, but he's reading it as crazy, and
Mhm.
he doesn't realize until later that this woman is fucking scared.
Yeah.
Um, and he gets a little bit disappointed, and he kind of is like, go kick rocks, and he heads home. Except it gets really, really crazy on his way home.
Yeah, and I think you spoke to it too. I mean, he's drunk. He's like, whatever, lady, you're hysterical, right? The stereotype of like the woman can't. And like later, when he realizes he completely misread that situation, I think it really hits him hard that he could have help this woman and he did not, right? And
Yeah,
he
that
didn't even
guilt.
see it. Yeah, and it's like the guilt of that. He because I think all of us when we go into situations, right, where we look at people and we make assumptions. What are you wearing? Where am I located? How's your hair? Like we're all doing it, and then
Yeah,
sometimes those assumptions are completely wrong. And when it's a serious situation, I mean that can be life or death, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that he kind of wrote her off though, because it's very realistic. If
Yeah.
somebody comes up to you and is like, "My husband was kidnapped by aliens,"
Well, yeah, and I was gonna say, in
you know?
fairness, it was kind of like
Yeah, like
you were crazy.
I couldn't blame him for being like, "Yeah, she's crazy," like
Yeah.
especially we're talking about a world where he's never heard of any aliens and
Yeah.
none of this has ever happened. So why in the world would you think she was anything but crazy? You
Yeah.
know?
And I think like we're primed for that. Living in New York, people come up to you and say weird stuff all the time,
Yeah,
and you're
well,
like, oh
LA's the same
yeah,
way. Yeah, LA,
yeah,
you get a different vibe too. So not quite the subway of New York, but
There's definitely
we have some
aliens on the
crazies in
subway.
LA too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've met a couple. uh, so he tries to go home, and then there's like, he's like a little bit paranoid because he's like, I think I'm being followed,
But
and
he's
he's
a
got that running with
detective.
the. Yeah, that's my favorite part about him, right? Is like you never sometimes you forget that he's a detective, and then he says something really smart, and he's like, no, I'm checking the corners. I'm on like he's on high alert all the time because not only was he a detective, he was a soldier. He was a
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting because it like sneaks out, right? And I think at the beginning you see kind of the blundering version of that where he knows what to do, but he can't necessarily pull it off.
yeah,
And like you see that grow to the end where he's more capable but still making mistakes too. I think that's interesting as well. But I love that part where he gets pulled over and it's like his mind's going 100 miles an hour and he's reading the situation and imagining what he could do and then realizing it's happened. And I just think that was a fun setup too of like this supernatural power system that's going to be set up throughout the book too.
What did you think when you came to that part, Tanya?
I didn't think he actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine him just like drunk and daydreaming,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
again, living in New York, riding the subway, I daydream about beating people up all the time. All the time. I go through like you know, exactly how I'd beat this person up because they stopped at the bottom of the escalator and then looked at their phone instead of moving out the way so their
Mhm.
escalator could keep going, you know, and I'm like, oh, I just kicked them in the back, like Sparta kicked them. And so I was totally with him on that, like just that
Yeah, I get like that.
imaginary fight. And then finding
Yeah.
out that it's a real fight, it's like, oh shit. First
And
of
Yeah.
all, you can fight
I
like
like
that.
the idea that you don't know if you can always trust him. Like,
Yeah.
is he telling you the truth? Is what is happening, and
Yeah.
then is his analysis of what happened even accurate? Right?
Yeah,
Like,
because
that's
you
a,
know that he's drunk, you know?
yeah.
Like, when that happened, I was like, "What is this, like, other dimension that's happening?" Like you said, Tanya, like, you might project yourself into the situation, like, I get grocery store road rage, which is why I go really, really early. I hate fucking people pushing their carts really slowly and just, oh, I can't, and until I'm guilty of that, because like, I wear headphones, and I'm, like, dancing in the grocery store, and I look people like, "Excuse me." I had noise canceling on. I
Yeah.
didn't hear you. My bad. But to see like these, like I like the way that I'm picturing is like after images of him moving around and doing this thing as if he had taken adium. Ha ha ha. That's a Brandon Sanderson reference. Boom, AK. Count that. But then you're like, it happens, and you're just like, oh no, there's no way that was possible. And
Yeah.
it's like the worst possible scenario. Like he gets pulled over, he's like, oh, I'm a detective, here's this badge, and then his gun falls out, and you're like, no, this dude is screwed. Like everything is going wrong.
Okay, you
And
know what that reminded me of? Have you ever seen The Campaign with
no.
Will Ferrell and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
when
Hmm.
you know when Will Ferrell when he gets pulled over and he's like hammered and he's like, oh, you know, I'm Cam Brady, and like he's thinks that they're gonna just let him go, but he's so drunk that it's like absolutely ridiculous, and like no one can let that happen. That was
Yeah.
kind of what I was picturing with Duster. Is
Hmm.
like, oh, he's gonna show this badge, but he's like slurring and like leaning
Yeah,
over
and
and
that's
probably
exactly
just
what I
doesn't
wanted it
help
to be
at
too.
all.
It's like, come on, bro, like no one's letting you get out of this.
I feel like I can't let
It
you
doesn't
go.
matter how charming you are. I mean, it's like
Yeah, and
shoot for the win.
he reads the cop too. He's like, oh, this is a rookie. He's like whatever, blah
Well, and
blah.
he's right, and I thought, and you nailed it too. I mean, he's right about that stuff. He's reading it all right, but he can't execute the plan to get out of the situation because he's
Yeah,
looking over his
he's
head.
hammered.
And I like that. I like the narrator you don't know if you can trust. I mean, he even tells you, yeah, sometimes I see people that aren't there, and he has PTSD from when he was in battle, and there's a lot of things going on in that brain of his that
Yeah.
like and as the story progresses and it gets weirder, I mean, I wanted people to be like, wait, what? And kind of go along for the adventure with him, but like also be like, is this actually happening? Is this real? And then eventually too is like, can we trust his analysis of like what happened with him and Carla? Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Like, and I think a lot of times people reimagine what happened to them too. So like,
Ooh, yeah.
and I think that's interesting from Duster's perspective, where things happen to him too that are so out there and so extreme that you're not sure if his retelling of these things is completely how it went down either.
You know, that makes me think, yesterday I watched on the episode of Black Mirror of the new season
Mm-hmm.
where like with the pictures for the eulogy where oh my, well, I won't
Yeah,
spoil it,
watch it.
but basically they're
That's
able
what
to
it is.
like see through a picture and then have that jog somebody's memory. And so he gets to go into the picture and kind of look around and explain what happened. And then it's like his version of what happened is completely different because he's
Mhm.
ignoring the perspective of the woman that he's talking about,
Yeah.
that he was so madly in love with. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh my God, you were so fucking wrong about everything.
Yeah, and that's a great episode. If you haven't watched that, I would skip to that one. It was so Paul Giamatti's great in that too. And it's just I mean, it's the Rashomon moment, right? Where it's like if you do three things three different way from three different people's perspectives, they all see it differently.
Mhm.
And I love that. And I think it's just really interesting. And I love Black Mirror. I love Twilight Zone because I think
Me
that's
too.
what's fun about sci-fi is you get to do wacky stuff, and people are like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing that.
Yeah.
And like it allows you to get outside of people's comfort zones and maybe analyze things that if you were just like, hey, it's straight down the line. I'm writing this thriller, and we've got obvious right wing people and obvious left wing people, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, well, I'm on this side, right?
Yeah.
Before I even start reading this, I know how I feel. And sci-fi, I think, lets you break those preconceptions down and maybe tell people things about themselves that they don't necessarily want to hear. And I think that's what's fun about genre.
Yeah,
Sometimes people are
absolutely.
dismissive of, but some of the greatest science fiction is a little prophetic
Yeah.
sometimes and scary.
Hashtag Octavia
Octavia
Butler.
Butler. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as I read it and hearing, as we get further in and we hear about console version of Duster Reigns,
Mm-hmm.
I found myself siding with console Duster
Yeah.
Reigns because of that prologue. Like
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking like I feel like people are reading him wrong. Like not
Yeah.
yeah, like me, like the other characters. I mean, like I kept feeling like I don't know, guys. He might be onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that there's three different perspectives in that world too, and like
Yeah.
which one's telling you the truth, and are any of
Yeah.
them? And like I think when people have heard each other for so long too, they're all right and they're all wrong, right? They're all
Mhm.
trying to do something for what they deem to be the right reasons, and I think you did nail it, because I think there's going to be more of the console version in the future, and what's
Looking forward to that then.
Yeah, I
what's
can't
he
wait to
trying to
meet them.
do. Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'll
I
say is
liked
like
I liked him in the prologue.
I
yeah,
did too. I did too. I was like, what is going on? And it was a little bit scary to me to like, you're like, well, he doesn't really know what's happening, but he knows something is coming for him. Like he's immediate, you can
He's a
he
smart detective
recognizes the
too.
sense of danger, right? Like he's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, this is going down. I have been preparing for this, but I didn't realize, maybe like it was an eventuality, but um there's like this thing about seeing a mirror version of yourself. It's like when you watch a horror movie, right? And then people are looking at your reflection, and then your reflection does something that you didn't do, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Whoa!" Or when you're when you're in a bathroom and there's a mirror in front of you and a mirror behind you, and you're seeing all of these reflections, for to infinity, and that's what it kind of felt like for me. Like,
yeah,
but when Dustin sees like, um, his possibilities of like what he can actually do, and just knowing that you don't know which one of those is actually going to happen.
yeah. And I think we've kind of spoken to it too. I mean, the console version is doing the thing at the level that Duster could do it at, right? Like when he's imagining, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is the plan. That guy's just doing the plan.
Yeah.
He's like
Yeah.
there. He's focused. He's got a mission. He's doing it. And I think Reigns is trying to find his way to be that version, but he wants to be a better version of that. And
Mhm.
is that even in him? Because I think that's what I mean. You spoke to Black Mirror, and they played with this season too. It's like, what are you? Which version are you? And like when faced with these situations, what made you a good person? What makes you a bad person? Like a bad person who then is faced with extremes, becomes nice and friends with people, but it's like, yeah, but you still did all those terrible things before. Remember
Right.
that? And you're
Yeah.
like, hey, I do remember
Like
that. My bad.
Dalinar.
Dalinar,
Dalinar
yes,
Colin.
Dalinar Colin. And I think that I think is best reflected in his relationship with Carla,
Yeah.
because you see that like he loves this woman, but he keeps fucking it up.
Yeah.
And and you can see that she loves him too, but she's like, I have to set boundaries. I don't want to be hurt again. Like he's always able to like talk her, I don't know, into being allowing of him to come back
Yeah.
into her life. And she's like cracks these jokes and she wants to be mad, but she's like,
Yeah.
like she can't kind of, because there is like a real love there.
He's the best version of himself with her for a time, right? And I think we all probably have someone in our past where we're like, oh, we were great together, but right.
Yeah.
And the but with them is very big. It's a big but. And I think there's part like they should be together, but like it would also be terrible too. And like, can you trust this guy not to like fall back into his old demons? And I don't know if she really ever gets a good answer to that either. And I think that she wants him to succeed and she wants to see him be better, but I don't know if she knows that he can't be.
Especially considering now she's been caught up in all of this stuff.
She got kidnapped.
Yeah, kidnapped and brought to another dimension and beaten because of her connection to him,
It made me
hard to bounce back from that.
That just made me think of two questions. Is that, Console Duster is alone for all of the things that he's done and has to do, but like, would Console Duster, and Carla how would they have gotten along? Would they have made it?
Well, I mean, we sort of see that, right, with the Madison character and her different versions, and how the two different versions don't get along with someone who loves them in the other version, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, it's that nature versus nurture aspect of life, right? Like,
Right.
are we the people we're going to be, or is it just because of the way we were raised that we are the person we are? Because I think we all like to think, oh, I'm a good person, I think this and that, but is that only because you were taught that, or because that was your natural inclination? And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's both, right? So I think it's interesting to tug and pull at that. Like, I think we all have a little darkness in us and we all have light in us, and we can choose which direction we go with it, right?
Right.
And I do think there's a lot of to be said for what the circumstances you're born into too, though, and the unfair lottery of life, right? And I think these characters are literally witnessing what it could have been if the
Yeah.
number had come up 20 instead of 10, right? And
Right.
that's kind of that to me is very interesting to think about, these what ifs. And that gets back to, again, my love of, like, that's why I love Twilight Zone, right? It's like, well, what if this? Every episode's like, what if this?
Yeah.
I devoured that when I was a kid. I loved that. And like, my brain just goes crazy with that. And
Yeah.
so I think it's interesting. And I think it can be a trap in life too, to fall into that. Oh, what if I'd done this instead of that?
The woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Pitying yourself, right? Where you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I should have done this. If only I'd done this. But you don't know what you don't know either.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting too to explore.
I think that's I think that's why Tanya and I are drawn to speculative fiction. Like, this falls into speculative. It's like a lot of other things, but this is speculative fiction. What if there was another version of you and it had all the power in the universe? Because it was like, hey, I'm just trying to fix things, but now I got to be in charge. Or what if, Rome and China, like somebody was able to unite those two dynasties and say, now the world exists like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that line where they're like, oh, Brutus didn't, he wasn't as good with the knife.
Yeah.
And I was dying laughing because that shit is hilarious. And they're like, actually, no, that's not funny in our universe, in our dimension, because all of this has happened because that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's interesting too, because I mean, again, the Dark Ages, quote unquote, or Middle Ages, when like Rome was on this, there was a time when people would see the stuff that the Romans built and be like, wow, who are those guys? These giants that built these amazing things. And it was only like 150 years before.
Right.
They've just completely forgotten how to do any of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so interesting from a human standpoint, because we all walk around with these, we're talking right now in this fancy box, right? And we have these
magic
toys.
We touch these things.
But none of us, I mean, there are a few of us, but most of us, if it all blew up tomorrow, I don't know how to build this, right? And none of us do. And does anyone know how to build an aqueduct, right? Like we have to the engineer. Like I find that so interesting that like human ingenuity is built on the backs of other people, but then like we lose the ability to do that sometimes, right? Yeah. And if it all went away tomorrow, we'd be like scrambling to find someone who knew how a combustible engine worked and these kind of different things.
Yeah, right. It's like you see that in the Wheel of Time, right? Where they have all these elements.
That, yeah.
I thought you were going to also mention the Desolations from Stormlight Archive. But yeah, you see this is just how quickly so many things can be lost and forgotten, and then you're started from scratch. And it's like what AK was saying with her comment, like it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
Me and Tanya always talk about like, what's the thing that would get you burned at the stake as a witch? And I don't wear contact lenses, but I think that would be the thing, just like removing something from your eyeball, or like in oh my God, the Halloween movie that we love. Not The Craft, the one with the witches with the black flame candle. Samuel Banks, he turns into a cat.
Oh,
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Where he like stands up on the thing and he like lights the lighter and like yeah, it's those like little things, but like true. I
just saw that for the first time like last year.
Right.
I should have pulled that out. I never saw that. But actually, someone in my movie is one of the kids from that movie.
Oh, really?
amazing.
Maybe we should do a 30 Tuesday. What's for what still remains.
Yeah. I think we should too. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think.
Or have you back for like we do spooky season.
I would definitely come back.
Yeah, because we do spooky season. 30 Tuesdays is where we drink less than 32 ounces of something because it's a school night and talk about like a movie or a TV show. And for spooky season, we usually, if depending on how many Tuesdays there are, we do an old time radio episode, we do an episode of The Twilight Zone, and then we do 2 movies.
And back to the Twilight Zone too.
Yeah, I mean, we always do a Twilight Zone. We always do a Twilight.
FYI, their 4th of July, Sci-Fi is doing like an all-day Twilight Zone marathon.
Oh wow!
That's like how I spend New Year's Eve is I watch the Twilight Zone marathon. I love Twilight Zone.
I always lament like modernity in a way because streaming, unless I'm going to like make my kids watch that, they're not going to ever see it. Whereas when we were younger, you had reruns, right? And you would just happen on these things. And I mean, when I would stay home sick from school, it's like you'd watch Twilight Zone, you'd watch the Mary Tyler Moore show. You'd watch all these things that like, unless like you would never have known to go find, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love flipping through those. I love flipping through those TV Land channels. You're like, oh, Dick Van Dyke Show. I love the Dick Van Dyke Show. Stuff like that.
Laugh-In.
Yeah.
Laugh-In was like before my time, but like I grew up watching Laugh-In.
Yeah,
it's Laugh-In.
Goldie Hawn was on it when she was young, and it was like this like sketch comedy show. It's just old, I think from the 60s maybe. And I actually still have cable. I know like everybody got rid of cable and got streaming, but I actually still have cable because I can't let go of that feeling of like the TV telling me what to watch.
And actually, I gave up cable, and I was just talking to my wife about bringing it back because sometimes you're just like, what do I want to watch? And that's the problem with streaming is like unless you know what you want to watch, it can be very difficult to find something.
Yeah, you spend more time not watching something than watching something sometimes, and then you just give up. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna read a book, which is fine with me.
My wife read the New York Times best movies of the 21st century. I'm like, well, we should just print that list and just watch them because like I love movies and I've seen most of those anyway, but like at the time we're like debating what we should watch. It's like, well, let's just turn it on.
A show that's like that for me, it's like speaking of AK, you watching what your parents are watching is watching what my grandparents are watching. Like I'm obsessed with Dark Shadows. And I've like that whole series, there's like, I don't know how many, there's a billion fucking episodes and I'm making my way through. I've watched 600 of them and they just keep going, and the story is so like it's very campy but it's very compelling, and like I watched it from the time that it was filmed in black and white till it went to color. And the fun thing about it is that because it's shot on film, like if somebody flubs a line they just keep going, they're like they will like come back and they're like, oh okay, no, and the other person reacts to it and they just keep moving with it. I love that kind of stuff. Although if all my streaming, if all my streaming platforms and things failed, then I would read the books on my bookshelf.
I do have quite the TBR. And my library books on hold keep popping up, and I keep saying over in 21 days.
They all go live
behind me, but I will not say I've read them all. That's the thing. It's like I saw someone post the other day, like one of those memes on Instagram where it's like, I'm way behind on the book I'm reading, but that doesn't mean I've stopped buying books. I butchered it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I just went to the Science Fiction Writers Association. They gave us like all these books, and then like I was listening to different authors talk, and they were like saying books they love, and I'm like putting them in my shopping cart. And I bought
them. Yeah, it's like add them to my Goodreads. Ever since Tanya introduced me to Goodreads, I was like, I'll go to a bookstore and I'll like take pictures of stuff, and then I'll add them to my Goodreads, and it's the best thing. It's like I look forward to reading. The only ones I don't read are like the business ones. I'm like really not in. Like I'll try. I get through the first like 5 chapters, and I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to. They're like, oh, do this workbook, and I'm like, don't tell me what to do.
I have a book on publishing that I was so interested in, and it's been sitting on my bookshelf, I want to say for 9 years.
I was gonna say it's probably out of date.
Yeah, like I don't think it's relevant anymore. And I think
like a chapter on how to send an email. All right.
Yeah, right. And I only hold on to it.
Email versus direct.
I only hold on to it because the author signed it. Like I was at like a CLE thing and the author signed it, and I'm like, none of this is even relevant anymore. Like so much has changed.
Yeah, you couldn't sell it back if you were in college.
No, I could not sell it back.
It's an interesting thing with any of that. I mean, publishing's that way, and movies are very much that way. You would go I went to USC, so there's professors who like wrote Prince of Thieves and like had like these storied careers, but you go talk to them, and what they did is not replicatable at all because it was
Right.
just like a moment in time. And I think that's true for me too. It's like people ask, "Oh, how'd you get that indie movie, man?" It's like, well, it's just like a blip in time where I think if I'd been 10 years earlier, I probably would have made a lot more of them. Like where people were just throwing money at
Same
indie.
for music.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same for music.
and
You know,
it's adapt or die sometimes.
I was speaking of adaptations. I went to I was at this music conference earlier this month because it's shout out to Music Month and Happy Pride Parade Day in New York, guys. But they were talking. One of the talks was about video games and music and video games and how it's like such a big multi-billion-dollar industry. And it made me think just now. Do you see Reigns as a video game, Shadow of the Eternal Watcher? Like that's totally playable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
I could
love
see
that.
that as a video game.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it. People always ask me too, "Oh, you're a filmmaker. Are you going to make this into a movie?" It's like, well, if someone wants to give me
Give
a
you the
call,
money.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the money thing. I mean, that's I mean, movies are hard because you write a great script and it's like, okay, now we need $10 million, right? And that's the challenge. And like, I've almost made a second movie like 4 times now. We had money and then there was a pandemic, or we had money and then there was a strike, and then now it's like nothing's happening. So it's always something. And like, obviously, you just have to keep creating, and that was one outlet with the book. And book, you write a book, and then there's like, well, how do I get it published? How do I get it? I mean, there's always a challenge with no matter what you're doing. So it's like you just have to keep doing, keep writing, keep creating, and keep hopefully finding outlets and ways to get it in front of people. Because I mean, that's for me the main thing. I wrote the book for people to read it. I want people to read it. I've made the movie so people would watch it because I feel like these are like I have fun stories to tell, and that's like what you're trying to accomplish too. It's like they're not just notches on the belt. It's about reaching other people too and connecting.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say if I won the lottery, like that's one of the first things I do is just start funding all the stories I want to see.
Yeah,
Because there's so many
absolutely.
out there, and then so many it seems so hard for original stories to get
It
funded.
is hard, yeah.
Everybody wants to jump on a franchise.
And that was one thing. I mean, honestly, I've been in a lot of meetings where people are like, "Hey, love this script. Keep us in the loop on what you're doing. Loved your movie. Let us know when the next one's happening." And it's like, oh, I thought that was what this meeting was about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of times you hear, "Oh, I wish there was some IP attached, intellectual property." And honestly, I was like, "Well, I'm just going to write my own intellectual property. Like that's what a book
Like
is."
this is
Like,
the IP.
Yeah.
like maybe it's never a movie, but like now it's like I'll never have to hear that again, right? And I'm actually working on something now where I'm going the other way, where it was actually a short film I made at USC that I've turned into a screenplay that got me a lot of meetings and some attention. And now I'm like, well, wouldn't that be a cool book? And so I'm going the other way, where I'm converting this like short story screenplay into a novel, which is a challenge in its own way.
Yeah. Oh man, going the reverse adaptation. I have a question actually, for both of you. If you had to be, who are you in that other universe? Who are you?
Torian.
I just felt like as like if you had to pick your person like in general, but yeah, no, Tanya's
I'm
Tanya's bad.
Torian. I'd be the bad guy.
I love it.
I'm here to kidnap and, tell you you're stupid.
Torture, mayhem.
Yeah, just a little torturing, a little bit of maiming, and you thinking you're smarter than me, but me knowing a lot more than you know. I was very into Torian.
Yeah, I like her too.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
What about you, Nick?
Man, I don't know. I really like Badger. I will say that. Like Dr. Andrews.
Badger was fun.
He was really fun. It's just like same thing. I like to know things and be like, all right, you being like someone who likes to tell stories and like draw things out. Like tune into my next episode. Like after our next adventure and mishap, I will tell you why this thing happens, but only like the teaser line, And I can heal you. I built this hospital for myself, and this is what we do. People like me, but they're not really sure. And then to find out later, like, what is the the mystery behind motivation. Like, whose side are you really on? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's why I was like, I don't know if I can really accept alternate Duster as a villain, because I'm like, I just, this team, I just feel like they don't tell you everything.
Yeah.
Like, well, what are you not telling me?
Tanya's the first mate with
Well,
plans
we
for
don't
her
really
too.
get a lot of her, but Livia has quite the story to tell too. And I think the two of them being foils for each other will be interesting to kind of explore, like what they're both trying to accomplish too.
Yeah. Do you have the next book like written or in the process?
I'm working on it. Like I said, I'm doing that other one right now, and I'm about halfway done with that. And then I've written a few chapters of the new one. Honestly, I waited to write the next one because I wasn't sure if I knew I was going to get this book published, but I was like, well, what's going to happen? Are they going to like have me change something? Like, what would that process be where like all of a sudden this character's not in it anymore, or something like that? So I was like, well, I'll wait to write the next one. And now it's come out, so I'm just kind of letting it percolate a little bit, and I'm going to probably finish that by the end of the year. I think I'll have the next one because I know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of
putting it down,
getting it out there, and then rewriting it because it'll be terrible.
I definitely got to the end and was like, so this is the beginning.
Yeah, I wanted, you never know what's going to happen. I think obviously they could be like, oh, this is terrible. We're never going to. I wanted there to be a chance for there to be more. And, people seem to be responding to the book and enjoying it, which is awesome and exciting. Not everyone, but, most people. And then I feel like there's a path for more stories with Reigns, which is exciting for me. I like being in his head. And I think it will be fun. Obviously, without giving too much away, the world will be changed in the next book. But he's still going to be like this sleuthy detective, and how does he exist in that new world too? And
I mean, the thing about it is like, I think we can say this is that his home, like LA, is literally in flames. Like his entire everywhere that he grew up with, I guess, doesn't exist anymore. And like, how do you go back to a world like that?
Yeah.
What happens next then?
Yeah, and I kind of imagine sort of a dystopian Blade Runner-y vibe, like, militaristic curfews going on, and like, and I don't think it's quite a leap to imagine that world. So like, what does that
really?
What does that look like? And like,
I just bought a whole bunch of blackout supplies.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Shoot, I was gonna ask a question. Oh, I was gonna make a comment. Not only is this book so fun the first time around, but the second time around, I was having even more fun with it. It's like you get to the prologue after you get to the end of this book, and you're like, oh shit. And I think it does make you more sympathetic to
I actually went back to the prologue before I finished it. Once they started talking about him, the console Duster, once they started talking about him, I went back to the prologue, I think twice. So I read the prologue itself 3 times before even like finishing the book, because I was like I said, I just kept going back and forth like, I don't know, guys. I don't know. You guys are saying these things about him, but I've been in his head and I feel like he can't be all that bad. Maybe he's a dictator, but
and
right.
I love history, and obviously a lot of people like Roman history, but like I thought that the Roman China thing was a fun idea. But like when you look at Roman history, Julius Caesar, Augustus, Mark Antony, I mean, that's Cleopatra. I mean, there's a reason there's been Shakespearean dramas about it. I mean, it's crazy like that happened in real life. When you go back and look at all that, and it was never, and that's the thing is like, it's easy to look back on history and be like, well, yeah, that's what happened, right? And it had to go that way, but it didn't have to go that way.
No, it
and
didn't.
That's kind of what's interesting too. And I think this is sort of like set up as a different version of that, of like who's going to win. Which version of this triumvirate will come out on top, and like what does that look like for this world? And I think that's kind of a fun jumping off point to like a bigger empire building, fun science fiction craziness to come.
I think so too. And like it's like Tanya was saying, I'm looking forward to learning more about console reigns. But also I think that, going throughout, like, Earth reigns, our Earth reigns, and learning more about him, you're like, oh, like this is why he's an alcoholic. Like these
Mm-hmm.
are the things that he did, because he's done terrible,
Yeah.
terrible things in the name of like war. And I always like seeing
His own sense of justice.
and his own sense
Mm-hmm.
of justice, right? Like, oh, I did this because it was either him or me. And yeah, I think that's an interesting dynamic to explore, because oftentimes when we see somebody who's a PTSD, all we get is the nightmares.
Yeah.
Like we know something terrible happened, but we might not know, like, oh, my dad used to scream on the balcony, or he used to, zone out and like come back, and you just be like, oh, we never talk about what happened there. So it was always a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But I like knowing what he did.
Yeah.
I like knowing what he did.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about too, Tanya, like the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, and like I
Mm.
think that's interesting too when you get in when people get placed in the places of power, whether it be police officer or emperor, right? Like different structures of power, but still power. And like, what do you do with that when you see something that you know is like, well, that's wrong, but is doing something wrong to bring justice? Like, who gets to pick that, right? And who gets to
Right.
decide? And I think
Mhm.
Right.
that's interesting too,
Yeah,
especially when structures start to fall apart.
it all becomes a slippery slope. You see this person and you know that they did these terrible things and you know that they're guilty and you don't want them to get off on a technicality. So you fudge
Mm,
things and you lie. And, it's like, okay, well, in this case, we all know that person was guilty, but what happens when they're not?
yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes it's that slippery slope of like, this is why people get off on technicalities, because if we let you do this, now what's going to happen in the next case
Yeah,
where
and people hate the technicality, but like you said, what if we're wrong though? We don't do the technicality, and then you're like, oh, you who read about these people, like, oh, he was in jail for 35 years, and
yeah,
turns out he didn't do it. Our bad. It's like, well, yeah, that guy's life is ruined.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
mhm,
yeah,
Takes so long to recover from that.
if you
Um,
recover.
yeah,
if
it's
you
like, oh,
recover.
we'll give you money. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was
Or
a
Maybe
that, or just like, okay, we don't
for
even
my
clear your
35
name,
years.
but it's like now it's on your record. Like,
Yeah,
like how much work does it take to expunge something like that? Like you were still in jail for all that time.
Yeah, I saw a recent one where this guy, he got locked up in his 20s and he's in his 50s now, or yeah, 50s or 60s. And so and he was everything was he was exonerated. Turns
yeah.
out he didn't do anything they said he did, but he still spent, I think, 30 or more years in prison, never got to get married, never got to have children, all
Well,
these things. It's like you cut a check, but
yeah, and it's
like
like maybe he can, but like, does that guy even know how to exist in this society
Exactly.
now? Like, what's he gonna do? Like, what apartment is he gonna rent? Yeah, it's like he's got money. What's he do with the money? Like, does he?
Yeah.
And I
yeah,
think that's why sometimes too you see people backslide and do things they shouldn't do, and then they end up back in
In the
jail,
back.
and then that sort of becomes like this reverse, like, oh, see, we were right all along. It's like, well, no,
Yeah.
those circumstances created a path for them to be trapped, right? And I
Yeah.
think
But
what we're talking about in these stories too is like what when you get locked into paths and like these things happen to you, you then make choices that maybe a different version of you wouldn't have made, right? And I
yeah.
think
yeah,
it's
It's
true.
like maybe you end up in a situation, you get out and you're just like, well, this is the only home I know. This is where I grew up. And then not that you necessarily want to go back, but that might be what you're comfortable with. Like I was doing interviews with these women on the day that they were released from like being incarcerated, and a lot of the things they talked about is like, sure, the things that they missed, like they missed their kids' proms and they missed like all of these like milestone events. And even if the children came to visit them, like it's not the same as being with them all the time. But then from a technological standpoint, like now I know that they've got like internet and people can get on Facebook and there's like, online dating and stuff, which is also fascinating. But being able to catch up with the times, like, oh, what do you mean I don't need a bank account anymore. I could just use Zelle and people can send me, or not Zelle, but like, PayPal or like
Cash App,
Venmo and Cash App
Venmo.
and these things. It's just catching up with that and knowing that like your entire life is digitized, and it wasn't like that when you went in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the guy who gets off on a technicality, and everybody knows he's guilty. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for that one little technicality,
And then Batman has to step in and do so.
break some legs.
It was actually Tanya.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's I think it's just, again, it's power structures, and that's what I find interesting, and that's definitely what I was delving into in this book, is like, what are the power structures for a guy who's like has no power, right? He's like, I mean, he has some power, but obviously down on his luck, he's just a detective. He's like fallen from grace, right? And so like what does he do with when he gets little bits of power too?
Okay.
All the millionaires in the world are no.
I think you got to be a billionaire.
Yeah, it is a billionaire vibe, but
Could Elon Musk be Batman? I don't think so. But
Oh no, he doesn't look like he can fight.
it's true.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't.
Zuckerberg's trying though. Right? He's training.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He knows what he's doing in that island in Hawaii underneath.
Oh man,
he's Batman. Do you have any like cons or appearances coming up?
I'm going to be at BoucherCon. Is that how we say it? The detective mystery.
There's a detective mystery con.
BoucherCon.
Tanya, we got to get up on these.
Think about the Anthony Award. Yeah. So I was just
that?
at BOUCHER, BoucherCon.
Oh, I see it. BoucherCon 25.
Maybe at that in September. Yeah, that's in New Orleans, and then we'll see what the future brings. Got this book in the process, Dreadlands, which is really more of a standalone. It's like a thriller monster book. It's really it's like Jaws. I always just picture it as Jaws meets Deliverance with a bear. Got a lot of magical realism, a lot of what's.
I love magical.
There are some themes I like, right? What's real, what's not, that kind of stuff. So it definitely delves into that. The magical. It's not science fiction, but it sort of is. I mean, it's magical realism, fantasy. It's.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a wacky one too, but it's fun, and it'll be a good book. I just gotta get it on the page, and I'm working on that, and then go back and make it more. It's interesting because I was saying, like, when you write a script, something that works as a scene as a movie is not necessarily a chapter in a book. So it's like, what do you do with it? Like, it's still good. I want it in here. Well, how do I flesh that out? Or does that just need to go?
Whew. That's really exciting. I want to go.
That's very exciting.
I wish you could just do like a contour.
I would love to
be fun. Just like get on the road.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, like I said, this is my first book, so I mean, I'm figuring it all out and getting onto some of these things. And I was at the science fiction one in Kansas City. It was just a lot of fun to connect with creative people and people who want to read your work, and it's just a good community of creatives. And I have that in the film world, so it's fun to try to find that in the author world now too.
Well, Wes is doing a great job.
Yeah, shout out to Wes. Thanks for hitting us
up. To Wes. Yeah. Whew. Any final thoughts, comments, anything you want to say that we should? You know what? Give us your 4-sentence summary about Shadow of the Eternal Watcher.
And then tell us what you're reading.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, Shadow of the Eternal Watcher is a down on his luck detective, gets thrown into a case with ramifications he couldn't have foreseen, and spirals into a science fiction space opera. And it's just a fun page turner. And I wanted to write an elevated page turner, and I think I pulled that off. And I think it seems like Tanya and Nikki liked it, so you should definitely go check it out. And then once you do, go on Goodreads and Amazon and leave me a review and tell me what you thought. And
we should do that. I've never written a review.
I feel like people use airport read as a derogatory, but
oh no, I would love to be an airport read.
Yeah, well, no, but a book that's this is about roughly 300 pages. It's a perfect airport read.
Yeah.
You get sucked into it, but it's not so long that you have to. It's not a huge commitment.
Well, and I'm the kind of guy too. I mean, I love these genres, but sometimes I'll pick up a book. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 1,200 pages. Does it have to be?
Yeah, we read a lot of those, and it's
I've read some books where I'm like, yeah, it was good, but and it's famous. So what do I know? But I'm like, yeah, that could have been 400 pages. But it's like,
right.
You know,
This should have been an email
you'll
version.
never read a book where I'm like in a library or in school for like 200 pages. I will never have. You'll never pick up a Josh Mendoza book and be in school for a long time. Like, that's just not my vibe.
This
I
is
would
the
like
first.
be like 20 pages. Let's move on.
My New Year's resolution this year was to allow myself to not finish books.
Yeah.
And it's a thing I've never been able to do. Like, even when I don't like it, I just like slug through.
Not high.
And now this year,
the same way. And sometimes you just kind of move on, right?
yeah, this is the first year I've been allowing myself to not finish. But I did finish this one, and I really liked it, obviously, because we're here talking about it. Are you reading anything fun?
Well, I just finished S.A. Cosby's. Which one did I read? I read All the Sinners Bleed.
Oh,
I'm a big fan of his. He's a great writer. And I just picked up A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is sort of.
I hear so much
about
about that.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't read it. It was just on my list for like years.
Yeah, my wife was reading it. It was in her car, and I picked it up. I read the first chapter. I'm like, I might read this. I like this. It's not necessarily something I would like seek out. Like if I read the blurb, but I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, that's for me. But so far, I'm like 30 pages into it, and I like it a lot. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's another lesson to be learned is like give some stuff a chance. Put ourselves in boxes, and I mean, I love it all. I mean, I love Hemingway, and I love N.K. Jemisin, and I love.
We love her too.
Obsessed with N.K.
Well, I've only read her Broken Earth trilogy, but I thought
I mean,
that blew my mind. I was like, this is so smart. I like stuff. I feel that way about Dune too, where it's just like you read it, and it's like this world's completely crazy and different, and like 2 sentences they explain things. You're like, oh, I get it. I get what that machine does, and I thought she does that so well. And yeah, I think Dune does that well too, where you're like ornithopters, okay, they're like a paragraph, and that's like something I strive to do too. Is like just like how can I explain this so simply but elegantly too? And those authors do that so well.
Oh yeah, totally.
I love a good magic system.
Yeah,
Me
too. That is a great magic system too. And it's funny too when you start writing these things, you like realize readers what they respect too, and you have to think about that as an author too. It's like, well, what is my magic system, and how does this all work?
I always say, like, I'll accept if you put anything in your magic system, I will accept all of it as long as you stick by your rules.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too.
That was one of my complaints with the later seasons of Game of Thrones was like they didn't stick to their own rules. And I know we have very strong feelings of
Well, I'm not a big guy. I don't like to criticize other artists because I think having made stuff, I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine losing the books, making a show, and trying to finish it, but then also probably needing 3 seasons, but you're like, we got to do it in 1. I mean, I could just imagine. So
yeah.
All right.
I get it though. I would have liked it to be different too, but I think at the same time, I get the limitations of reality too, and that's hard.
And it's cool because we still have the books, and the books are excellent.
Do we though?
Well, we got the first 5, and the first 5, like they're all great. Shout out to A Storm of Swords,
What'd you say?
I said George is going to have to call Brandon Sanderson.
You really?
It's so funny. Like Blue Sky taught me that so many people absolutely do not want that to happen.
No, I don't think they do.
No, but
he's
he's so prolific. Like I'm like he
George. People are so mad at him, but like I mean, he created it, and let him go.
We love it.
He's living his life.
He's gonna be at New York Comic Con this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard too. I mean, and he's done it at such a high level and created such an incredible world.
And it's so
just even to do one. I mean, I don't think I hate those comments I read online of people like, "Why did you do this?" or "I could have written this," and it's like, "Well, then go do it." Write that book.
Go do it.
People are like so critical of like Star Wars now, and like maybe rightfully so, and sometimes, but it's like just like this. I can't stand the vitriol that exists in the internet now, where it's like, it used to be like read a book, and you're like, I didn't like that. Maybe you told your friend at the water cooler, and now it's just like people like make YouTube videos. It's like their whole brand is hating on these things. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
one
happy
thing.
you have anything to
That's one
criticize.
thing Nikki and I, like, we absolutely vowed we are not doing streams about things we don't like. Because
Yeah.
I feel like it's a waste of time, one. Two, people are sensitive about their art, and so it's just
yeah.
mean, you
Yeah,
know.
it's mean. And I think you're allowed to have an opinion and not like
Of
something.
course. Of
Like you
course.
don't have to like Game of Thrones the last seasons, but I don't think we need to like pile
Yeah.
on either, right? And
Yeah, we refuse to do it. It's like we know how we feel about it. We talk about it offline. We
Yeah.
understand how other people feel about it. But overall, you know, it was still a great show. People who didn't read the books come in and they watch it and they love it. And I'm happy for them.
Yeah. When you
And
know,
it brought Nikki and I together, so I
It
could
did.
never hate it.
Yeah, it's
like I loved when I was in college, I loved Lost. And I don't know if it ended the way I wanted it to, but I still enjoyed the journey. Like in
Yeah.
the ride with my friends watching that.
Journey
as well.
before destination.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's you can put a book in front of 1,000 people and you're going to get 1,000 different responses.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so true. And there's stuff out there for everyone. And I just think, like you said, if you don't like it, just move on.
Just move on. There are books that Tanya has committed to that I like start like sequels that I was like, oh no, okay. Like I get like 6 or 7 chapters in, I'm like, and then Tanya will read. I'm like, just tell me. She's like, I'm like, no, I'm not going to finish it. I'm not going to finish it.
Now in 2025, now that I'm allowing myself to not finish books, there's 3 books already that I didn't finish because they were keeping me from reading other books. I'm not going to say
and I've done that too, where you're just like, I got to read that. When it becomes work, you should probably move on.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I want it to be fun. I want to like fall asleep reading it and then wake up and be like, no, you can't pick it up. You have to get ready for work. You know, like those are my, or like, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock.
Like I'm still,
why am I still awake?
Well,
and that like I had to stop putting your I had to stop bringing your book into my bed because I was just like, no, it's gonna be a train book. It's got to be out here.
Mine, I was gonna say the reason mine is like you can see it's it's taken a beating, but this was definitely my train book, so it spent time in my purse.
That's I mean, I'm getting goosebumps because honestly, as a writer, like that's what you dream of, right? You just want people to like want to read it and devour it, and it means a lot to me that you guys read it and also enjoyed it too.
Yeah, and I listened to the audiobook too, and the audiobook narration was great.
Oh, I haven't listened to the audiobook.
Yeah, it's at the library. When I turn it,
did a great job.
I have to renew my library card.
I do too, my Brooklyn one.
Oh wait, my Brooklyn one is up to date. Does Brooklyn have?
Well, that's another thing I love. I mean, it's gotten well reviewed by like Library Journal and Book List, so it's getting into these libraries, and that the kid in me just is like so excited that it's like I could go find it on the shelf at the library.
That must be like such a great that must be such a great feeling. I would love to walk in and be like, oh, it's me. It's like artists that we work with talk about this too. It's like I heard my song on the radio.
Boom, just borrowed it from Brooklyn Public Library because I have 3 library cards.
Yeah.
I know. I love that it's at the Brooklyn Public Library. If you're out there listening right now and it's not at your library, you can go request
You can request it.
Oh, so go request it.
I had the request. I used to have the request link. Let me see if I can find it.
Tanya's gonna find it, and I'm gonna ask her what she's reading at the same time because I love distractions. No, I'm kidding.
So I'm still working on that Chinese horror anthology. Because I've been picking it up and putting it down. Because the short stories, so like those are books that take me forever. Oops, that did not copy. I'm also reading. Well, I just got Dream Hotel, and it was one of the books that was on my library hold, and I honestly could not tell you what it's about because I have no idea. I have no idea, but I know that I'm gonna read it because it came up as ready in my library hold and I added it so long ago that I forgot what it is. But I also love going into books like completely blind.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah. I like barely scan the back cover.
I know it's so hard when people like as the writer too, when people are like, all right, well tell me what it's about. And I'm like, well, don't you want to read it though?
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to pitch things though. I mean, I learned that a long time ago with movies where you're like, you can't just be like, oh, it's good, trust me. You have to be able to what's your 2 cents? And movies are big on it's this meets that, right? So that's what I pitched it earlier. It's like it's Deliverance meets Jaws, like because then people are like, oh, okay, I've seen those movies, I know what that is.
So The Dream Hotel by Layla Lalami.
Oh.
I'm gonna
check it out.
Goodreads link in the chat. Um, the Chinese anthology is called hold on, Xenophagia.
Is that something eating something?
Um, no, Sino has to do with like Asian. I don't remember what the phagia part is because like
Phagia.
xenophobia is like people who hate Asian people.
Yeah, because phagia is like in like biology, it's when something eats something else.
Oh, I'm
Was it?
adding the Goodreads for that. So I've been reading that. It's all translated, um, because it's all originally in whichever Chinese language it was. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dream Hotel, Xenophagia.
Tanya, you'll be happy to know that I started when I was in Sedona. I started reading Parable of the Sower. Finally, I
Right.
know, I know. I'm also reading Shigidi and the
Oh,
Brass Head of Obalifon, and
okay.
I picked up this book at work. It's called The Song of the Blue Bottle Tree, and I put it down. Like it's really good. I like immediately got drawn in, but I put it down because it was a little bit heavy for like the day that I was reading it. You know, this woman or this child whose mother passes away, and her grandma was watching her until her grandma passes away, and her dad's like, hey relative, I'm a trucker, I can't watch this kid all the time, and nobody wanted to watch her because nobody wants to take on like an extra mouth to feed, and
Yeah.
he hands her to like some distant relative and bad things start to happen. And because it's a blue bottle tree, I imagine that she can see ghosts, she can talk to spirits, so I'm looking forward to that developing. I'm also reading Krampus the Yule Lord, and it starts out with this, yeah, Krampus hates Santa Claus like with a fucking passion. So I'm looking forward to getting to that. It feels a little bit of a horror vibe. And
There's a
what else?
collection of like Christmas horror that I've been meaning to read forever,
Yeah,
but I'll
we can
save
do
it.
that
I'm gonna
next
save
year.
it for December. Yeah.
Yeah, there was something else that I'm reading. I don't know. I'm actually reading hardcover, like physical copies, so I don't always put them in my Goodreads, which I was just scrambling to do. Oh, there's the Selena book, Dreaming of You, which is like a book written in all poetry. So it's all
Oh,
poetry, and it's about these two sisters who call on the spirit of Selena in a séance.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
okay.
It's been really fun. Yeah, those are my reads.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Josh, for joining us today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Yeah,
great.
well, we'll
Bring me
see you
back
back
for
for.
Twilight Zone.
Yes, I was gonna say I'm gonna put you on the 30 Tuesdays list for
Yes, because
Twilight
we're
Zone
gonna
this year.
watch your movie so
Oh,
that we can
please
talk
do.
about
Thank
it.
you.
And
Yeah,
Yeah,
let me know what you think.
yeah, we'll have you. Well, you'll have to come back and join us on a Tuesday night.
I'm in. Let's
You're
do
lucky
it.
because you're 3 hours ahead of us. So for us, we're like, oh God, it's so late.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Thank you.
Tuesday
Okay.
it'll be 6 p.m. for you. So we'll make sure we'll coordinate to make sure that that you
yeah,
can
we'll
make
work
it.
that out.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know. You got my email?
Yeah,
Yes, stay online after we end the stream. Don't go anywhere.
I won't.
Thanks again for joining us.
we don't know what our next thing is.
I have no idea what our next book is.
Let me-
It might be
It's gonna be
Shigeki
me. You're
and
just gonna have me
the
on like every month.
Every
Every
We're just
Yeah,
gonna do a chapter by chapter reread and just like for the
yeah.
next however many months that is, like next
Do a
like
Game of
Oh
Thrones
my
deep dive.
god.
yeah.
Man, our take would be so crazy. Yeah, I'm looking at, we don't have anything on the calendar for July yet. So stay tuned. There will be a book
We'll
and
come
a
up with
30
something.
Tuesdays or something because we take off in August because it's our birthday month.
Oh,
Yeah.
mine too.
Oh,
When's your birthday?
22nd.
22nd.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm the
Yeah,
second.
by the skin of the teeth.
Second.
Yeah, 17th.
17th. Yeah, I'm like the straddle.
That's right. Yeah.
Leo. I think I'm
Well,
probably more Leo, but
trifecta. You heard it. See, guys? Magic
bunch of
can happen
Leos.
when you get us together. All right. Well,
Well,
cheers. Happy Sunday to y'all. Happy Pride. Happy Black Music Month.
cheers. Happy Sunday.
Happy
Happy Caribbean Heritage Month as
Heritage
well.
Month. Bo, bo, bo.
I have been Tanya,
I'm always Nikki.
and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.